after what was a very difficult and troubling afternoon at Pittodrie on Saturday early afternoon, Celtic came away with a 1-0 win. It means that the top half of the table looks like this. So Aberdeen have fallen further behind, and tomorrow night we welcome Rangers to Pittodrie. Here are the stats from the game, and they are quite damning. Aberdeen have now not beaten Celtic at Pittodrie since February 2016. Saturday's defeat represents only the Dons' second home defeat all season, and Aberdeen's 117 accurate pass completion rate is the lowest recorded in 5 seasons. Just over 15,500 of you watched Aberdeen lose against Celtic on Saturday. Good evening, how are you? Sorry for the slight delay getting to you. Just had a little bit of an issue with the old broadcasting system. So I hope we're up and running. I hope everything is okay. A very warm welcome to the show. So I decided to postpone this show by 24 hours, quite simply because emotions were running high after Saturday. And there was still a lot of anger floating about. And the last thing I wanted to do was come on and basically sound and look like a madman. As most of you know, that's not me. It's not my style. So what I decided to do was just take a step back, try and work it all out, and try and offer something which is sort of more level-headed, let's say. So a little bit later, I'm delighted to be joined by Gavin Baxter from the ABZ Football Podcast, which is fast becoming the #1 podcast for Aberdeen football fans. And him and I have a good chat for nearly a quarter of an hour about what happened on Saturday. So I really hope you enjoy that chat. So what I'm going to do is obviously open the floor to you guys. Get in touch through the usual means on YouTube, and I will try and read out as many of your comments as I possibly can. So what I'm going to do before I welcome Gavin is I'm going to give you my own thoughts. Now, I've written quite a few down, so forgive me if I sort of look down just to refresh myself about what I want to say, because I do think it's important that I get this right this evening. So, as we know, football is an emotional sport. It captures the very best out of people, and I think it's the only sport that can really do that. Look at the World Cup final last night as a perfect example. The Argentinian head coach at full time, when the realization that he's just won the World Cup, he takes a seat in the dugout, he comes back to the edge of the pitch, he goes down, he blesses himself, and then he completely breaks down. And I have to say, and without trying to sound overly cheesy, I thought it was quite beautiful. And that's the type of emotion which, for me, is what football is all about. So, talking from an emotional point of view, and I want you to understand something, and this is very important. This is not a personal attack on Jim Goodwin or the football club. This is not an attack at all. It is quite simply a personal opinion. By deploying those tactics on Saturday, I believe that the manager took any crux of emotion out of our game. And any emotion that could have been felt, I think, was replaced by the wrong type of emotion, which was anger, frustration, and quite simply, bafflement. For me, what happened on Saturday was we took the joy out of the game. Now, as a fan, watching your team play football, you always hope and believe that something is going to happen in the game to rile emotions in you, to get you out your seat, to get you on the edge of your seat, to get you singing the songs, to get you behind your team. It's the hope that we all cling on to, but I believe from the first whistle, any amount of that emotion that could have been stirred was taken away. We should never allow a team to think that they are unbeatable, particularly at Pittodrie. And they must have gone in at halftime thinking, all they're going to do today is park the bus. They don't think they can beat us. which gives them the incentive to keep going and keep going and keep going. And we all saw what happened. On Saturday, all I believed, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in the thinking, that there was a sense of the inevitable. And we saw what happened. And for me, that is troubling. Jim has come in. He has steadied the ship. He's helped reshape us. And I absolutely applaud him for that. He's brought a certain amount of spark back, which had been missing for quite a while. We are third in the league. We do have a League Cup semi-final to look forward to. But on Saturday, playing like that will do absolutely nothing for our team, for our players, for our club, and more importantly, for us as a support. So I really hope you understand where I'm coming from. Get in touch. Let me know what you think. Okay, so what we've done here with Gavin is we've sort of digressed a little bit. We've got a little bit more into the chat, tried to find out what happened and just, chew the fat, basically, over the game. Before I speak to Gavin, this is what the manager actually had to say after the game. The way we play today is not a style of football that our fans have been used to from us here this season. Prior to today, we've won 6 out of 7, scored loads of goals and been very attack-minded. Today, I felt that our best chance of getting a result from the game was to go the way we did. I heard the fans at the end and I understand that completely. They want to see us attack more than that, and we will do in the future. But I felt this was the best way to manage the game today. So my issue with that is he did not manage the game at all, as Gavin and I discussed. Hi, Gavin. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on. I hope, like me, you've also now calmed down and able to give me what is an honest and versed assessment of the game on Saturday. So before we sort of get into the real crux of it, tell me what you thought of Saturday. What was your feelings about the whole situation and the whole game?
Yeah, thank you for having me once again. We've had the World Cup final, which was sensational. So it's given me some time to regain my faith in the sport they call football. Because at around 2:15 on Saturday, it was at a bit of a record low in recent times. To try and keep it concise and to not let my blood pressure build that little bit more again. Just a deeply, deeply disappointing approach to a home game of football in the domestic league, against a team that we should be aspiring to challenge, not being so, there's no better word for it, submissive or deferential. You just have to look at the statistics. 19% possession, 81% for Celtic, 33 shots on goal for Celtic. And you know what? I never really clocked this until recently, but we had 8 fouls, which implies, as we all watched, that we didn't even try and put a tackle in or make the game uncomfortable for them at all. Ange Postecoglou afterwards said that it's the most dominant away performance that Celtic have had in his time, which says a lot. That he's counting the 9-0 against United in that assessment. It was simply not good enough from a mindset, from a game plan perspective, and the feeling within the red shed where we are was palpable, that people were not happy with the way we approached it, and you can sense it. You can see it on Twitter, on the internet as well, even in the fan comments on the BBC website. People are really not happy, and I certainly do not blame them for that.
Gavin, do you know what I find really interesting is that after the Rangers game, there was a level of anger. And because of the way that Jim didn't change our style that night, after we went a goal up and then they pummeled us, he just didn't change it. And the anger was directed mostly at that. But the anger after Saturday, I think, was on a completely different level to anything that I've seen in quite a while, I've got to be honest. There was a lot of angry fans and frustrated fans during the last few months of Derek's reign, but nothing like what I witnessed and what I've read and what I've seen since Saturday. So that worries me, that the level of anger is so high. And I think the football club need to take this into consideration at the moment.
It's worrying because you take Ibrox, you've also thrown Tannadice into the
Yeah,
equation
yeah,
when we got beat 4-0,
yeah.
and then the defeat on Saturday to Celtic. That's three occasions where, there's been a lot of strong feeling against this manager who's been in situ for still a relatively short period of time. In theory, he's kind of almost still in his honeymoon period. And while I still think that we're on the right path under Jim Goodwin, I think by and large, I'm still happy with what he's done. You just have to look at where we were last season in comparison to where we are now, third place in the league, semi-final. But yeah, it's not been these big results, these big performances in these games that that mean the most to us have simply not been good enough. And like you say, Derek McInnes paid for it with his job. Stephen Glass wasn't up to it either. He likewise. And if it comes down to it, Jim Goodwin will have to look at these kind of games and wonder what went wrong when he's no longer Aberdeen manager. And what's interesting to me is, ask you this question: do you think that Dave Cormack or even Stephen Gunn is having a word with Jim Goodwin right now, expressing that this approach, these tactics in these games are good enough for the Aberdeen manager? Is it what he promised to deliver when he signed up for the role?
You see, it's a really interesting question, because I actually wondered about that myself earlier today when I was putting sort of my own thoughts together. And at the moment, I have to be honest, I don't think it's the place for the chairman or for the director of football to be discussing matters on the pitch with the manager. I think first and foremost, the manager has to sit down with his own staff, possibly the skipper and the senior players, and assess it with them first. And then if the chairman wants to have his say, the chairman is entitled to that. Of course he is. But I don't think that a chairman should overly get involved in the football side of things on the field of play. I don't think Mr. Cormack would be overly happy if Jim started getting involved in Mr. Cormack's businesses. Hence why I also don't think it would be right for Dave Cormack to get involved with what's going on the pitch. But you are right about that Dave wanted this style of play. He wanted an attractive style of play, and potentially a gentle reminder here and there wouldn't go amiss. But I'm not sure, and I might be speaking out of turn. I hope I'm not, Gavin, but I don't think it's the chairman's place. What do you think?
I don't think it is either, and that is where I think it falls under the remit of the director of football. I just wonder what people think the chain of command is in that sense, but that could be me perhaps speculating on the exact role that some people have within our club. Let's just say that. But listen, I'm just going to talk again about the philosophy and the approach. When you go to Rangers, the way we play, some people said it was positive. I think Jim Goodwin said in his post-match press conference that people were giving us plaudits for the way we approached against Rangers. Don't really remember that myself. Remember a lot of palpable anger. And I think that if we'd played Celtic in a very adventurous, attacking way, we could have been carved open at will, and it could have been embarrassing. But there's definitely a happy medium that you can strike between what we did on Saturday and going gung-ho, massively naive. You can press with intensity and with aggression. And I think back to when Jim Goodwin spoke with our man in Spain, Graham Hunter, at the end of in the summer, talking about players needing to be brave both on and off the ball. Saturday, when we did get possession, the 19% of the time that we did, the game plan was simply to get the ball long to Miofsky and Duke, and they had to make something out of nothing. We had to rely on Celtic players making mistakes. So there was no game plan for me other than, like you say, 8 players camped out on our 18-yard line and a draw. That is the goal. Anything else is just a massive bonus. And yeah, I would agree with yourself. We've spoken about on our show, that's not the way we want Aberdeen to ever approach a game, at Pittodrie especially.
To me, it's very simple. He's just got to find the balance. He's got to find the balance by being able to be adventurous, but also to be able to contain. And that's up to him. That's not up to us to tell him how to do it. It's none of our business how he sets about his business. But it is blatantly obvious for everybody to see that if something is not working, then please change it and fix it. That's the least we can expect as fans.
Yeah, we talked about this with Joel Sked from Hearts, from View from the Terrace, and he made the good point that in football, so often people are not prepared to change things until they go badly wrong.
Yeah.
Rather than improving on the situation you're in. And it happened at Ibrox, it happened at Tannadice. And yeah, Celtic on Saturday, I agree. I think we did see it till halftime. We had done that part of the job. Now we have to, change the momentum of the game a little bit. And like you say, Miovski, people have had a real go at him. I'm not going to do that because he had nothing to work with the entire game.
Yeah, I agree.
But he wasn't getting any joy. And I think you could have brought a Johnny Hayes on sooner or a Ryan Duncan on and maybe bolstered the midfield a little bit, but still carry almost more of an attacking threat by having ball players deeper in the pitch to then feed Duke or to then feed our wide players. Yeah, there is a resistance to changing things in game situations that it was it hurt Derek McInnes. It hurt Stephen Glass in the later part of his time. And yeah, it's hurting Jim Goodwin. There's no doubt about it.
I also sort of want to discuss with you, Gavin, some of the PR.
Yes. Let's do this. Let's talk about this stuff.
Let's talk about some of the things that have been said recently, which I'm not overly comfortable with, I've got to be honest. So the first thing was that Jim spoke about in the pre-match ahead of Celtic, where he said he'd watched St Mirren and it had that game studied and all that sort of stuff. Okay, I get it, but don't make it public. And the reason that I say that is because all I think that does is get the fans back up, because it gives the impression that we're setting our benchmark like St Mirren's. It's just a personal opinion. He used the terminology mumping and moaning about the backlash from the fans. Again, I understand what you're saying, I get what you're saying, but don't use such terminology, because I think it gives the impression that you think the fans are being slightly petulant about being angry. And something that sort of troubled me a little bit today from the press conference ahead of the Rangers game is that he didn't say this, but he almost admitted, without saying it, that Celtic were basically too good to beat. If you think that privately, keep it private. Don't make it public. And that's what I don't understand at the moment, is that there's a few things that are being said. And, he's being very honest, which is totally fine. But I just sometimes think you just need to keep some of these things private, because all I think it's going to do is just get the fans back up. Because it certainly got mine up, I got to admit.
Yeah. Can hear it, can see that.
Yeah.
And you know what? It gives ammunition to all those people who think that the job is too big for Jim Goodwin.
Right.
When he approaches it almost sounding like he's still the St Mirren manager. And with the greatest respect to St Mirren, Jim Goodwin is in a much bigger job with much bigger demands on his shoulders. And I thought he knew that. Now I'm a little bit not quite so sure. When you talk about the mumping and moaning comment, sure, you know what? I mean, you don't necessarily want to base the actions of your club on what your supporters think all the time, because there can be some pretty irrational views out there. And you hear that in the stadium whenever you're there. And yeah, you're right. In a way, it is Jim Goodwin's prerogative. But when you're talking about fans that are rocking up in freezing cold conditions, paying the guts of £40 to watch their team, and that's what they get, they have absolutely got the right to vent their frustrations. And I've not seen anything massively overreactionary online that makes me think, well, that's,
that's out of order. No, there's nothing that I've seen that I think, whoa, steady. Listen, let's be honest, there's been a couple here and there knee-jerk reactions, but that's understandable in the cold light of day when emotions are running high. I totally get that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some people say it's up there with the worst performances they've ever seen, and yeah, Mark McGee's era will still top anything that we saw on Saturday. Because you know what, I'm going to try and find a silver lining here. A positive is that we can say all we want about the game plan. I thought the players actually executed it pretty well.
Yes, mate.
I
Yes,
thought
mate.
we were extremely resilient
Yeah.
against a Celtic team that came to play. And, you know, there's maybe something that you can start to build with. But what concerns me about this, and then we go back to that idea of the mentality of Jim Goodwin as the Aberdeen manager. Hypothetical scenario, we beat Rangers at Hampden, and likely we play Celtic at Hampden in the final of the League Cup. What can you take from that game that you can implement on a bigger pitch where the bodies and the minds are going to tire a lot faster than they are at Pittodrie?
Mm.
And at the end of the day, like, all we want as Aberdeen fans is a team that is capable of going and competing for trophies. There's nothing I can take confidence-wise from that game that makes me think we can go and beat Celtic at Hampden.
Mm.
And like I say, that's going to be the defining aspect of Jim Goodwin's time as Aberdeen manager.
Mm. I guess, you know, when you strip everything away and you take away the emotional side of it, you take away the anger side of it, I think all we're asking is just to be competitive. Just be competitive. It's a game of football. It's 11 against 11. Be competitive. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know.
I have seen worse Aberdeen teams be much more in the face, pose much more of a threat to. Listen, Ange Postecoglou's Celtic team are a good team.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But they're far from the best team I've ever seen play against Aberdeen. It doesn't seem out with the realms of, you know, realism that we can expect that. It's what we were promised when we started this brave new journey with the shift in structure. I think we have the players capable of doing it. But yeah, something needs to change in the mindset, because that's, yeah, if we go that way against Rangers on Tuesday, I think this could turn into a footballing bloodbath.
Yeah, I agree. It's just what worries me the most is the mindset. I think that's what it boils down to. It's just it's just down to that. And
we've got so many players who have not grown up within the Scottish system.
Yeah.
Like you've seen today, I don't know if you noticed this, but David Martindale's come out in defense of Jim Goodwin's approach. And it's kind of like that almost old footballing managerial buddy, you know, defend your mate against any criticism comes his way from primarily the fans, as you say. And it's just, it's the attitude, the mentality that's led to what, 30, 40, 50 years of pretty much uninterrupted dominance, apart from when a certain Alex Ferguson decided to rock up with an Aberdeen team that were out of this world.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how you break that cycle when you've got people who've just got that mentality.
Yeah, I agree. It's hey, listen, we might get some answers tomorrow night. We might. I guess all we can do is just wait and see. Gavin, it's been absolutely brilliant getting you on as always. Thank you, mate. Thank you for coming on and giving us your thoughts. Much appreciated.
You're very welcome.
Lovely to see you.
Merry Christmas.
Speak to you soon. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye, pal. If you do get a chance, check the guys' latest podcast out, ABZ Football Podcast. It's one of the best out there, if not the best out there. Other match stats for you. It's so damning, isn't it? And the one that, to be honest with you, I didn't want to put on there because I'm still embarrassed about it. Celtic had 754 accurate passes. Accurate passes. And it's my understanding that Callum McGregor actually had more accurate passes over the 90 minutes than the entire Aberdeen team put together. On a positive note, I have to say that I thought we defended like lions. I thought we were absolutely magnificent at the back, and if it wasn't for Kelly Roos, it could have been a cricket score. I think it's important to always find that balance and to offer praise where praise is due. And I thought they were outstanding at the back, the lads, but they were forced into it. And that's the whole issue about the thing. Okay, we shall be finishing the show very shortly on a sort of a more lighter note, let's put it this way. But I would like to get to some of your comments because I'm absolutely delighted to see so many of you on tonight. Thank you for jumping on. It's very much appreciated. Okay, where do we start? Right, Laurel 101. Hopefully Jim Goodwin has listened to all the flack about that crap show on Saturday and does not repeat it tomorrow against them. Scott W has said, I fear for tomorrow. I think he'll play a similar way. Bear with me, guys. Paul Ricky has said, if we sat a bit higher and could have got a few more chances, if we play like that tomorrow, I'm handing back my semi-final ticket. Oh, don't do that, Paul. Please don't do that. Scott W has said, it's the first game this season I've actually been annoyed. His setup played right into Celtic's hands. Laurel went on to say, I've never seen the Red Shed so quiet. Agreed. Scott W went on to say, I've never seen an Aberdeen setup like that in 42 years of supporting the Dons. Paul Donaldson said, on television, the only noise you could hear in the second half was from the RDS upper. It was very quiet on Saturday, I have to be honest. When I was watching it on Red TV, it was so quiet. Transmission GGB, good evening. It would have been an achievement to not concede a goal against Celtic, but is that the best we can hope for now? Not play our game and not try to win or even score against a team like Celtic. I couldn't agree more. Scott Farquhar has come on. Hi, Scott. How are you? From start to finish, it was embarrassing. There's no way any Dons team should be parking the bus. It was only a matter of time until they scored. If it wasn't for Kelly Roos, it could have been 4 or 5. Kaiser has said, hi Kaiser. Kaiser's left lots of comments, but I'll read this one out. We never even defended well. I don't know. It was down to Celtic's poor final balls and poor finishing that stopped it from being 3-4. Hey, listen, you've got a point. They had some unbelievable chances in the game, but I do think, I've got to be honest, I think that's the best we've defended all season. Noel Blaha has come on. Hi Noel, how are you over in the States? It's double frustrating when we put Duncan on for Clarkson not to go and attack, but in a like-for-like strategical position. Again, I completely agree. And I also don't really get why Shayden Morris came in for what? A minute? Is that just to get appearance money? I don't know. Noel went on to say that he thought Jack McKenzie played very well. I agree, felt we defended well, and maybe if we were pushed up even slightly more, we could have threatened more. I think that's all it took. We were so deep. Oh, so deep. It was crazy. Alan Nichol has said, there's been a few bad performances, but Jim said to judge him at the end of the season. Yeah, it's a fair point. Keith Mackey has said, Jim showing his tactical naivety in this game, the Ibrox game and Dundee United game. Setting us up like that, he's still at St Mirren, isn't acceptable. Livingston managed to give the Old Firm a proper game. Can't argue. Absolutely can't argue. There's a lot of talk about, Bojan not having the best of games. For me, he's a penalty box player. I thought Duke did fine when called upon, but, they're just not getting any service. James E. Thompson has said that Jim Goodwin's mentality is mediocre. Unfortunately, the whole of Scottish football has it. If we had a manager with no experience, knowledge of Scottish football, I think that is what we need so that we have a go. That's an interesting point, I've got to be saying. Right, guys. So, I want to finish on sort of a high. So, do you remember a couple of weeks ago, I had a chap called Charlie Craig on, who is a volunteer at the Football Memories Scotland, which is an initiative which invites people that suffer from dementia and Alzheimer's and people that might be sort of struggling with their mental health and just having a tough time. And these guys do an absolutely brilliant job. What they basically do is they get a group of the guys together at Pittodrie and they take out like old programs, boots, shirts. They sometimes get old players along and they just reminisce about old times. And what it helps do is sort of spark memories from these people that are suffering with this dreadful illness, and also offers an opportunity for their family members just to get some respite. And I think what the guys do at the group is quite phenomenal, and I will keep telling you about them because they're a wonderful bunch of people. And they had a meeting today, and Charlie got in touch with me, and he's given me permission to show these pictures to you. And look who came along. Okay, look at the back left. Theo Schnelders went along to the group today to say hello to the gang and to tell everybody about his time at Aberdeen. There's all the folk there that were down at Pittodrie today in the Gothenburg suite. Isn't it absolutely magnificent? And I know that everybody that was down there had a thoroughly enjoyable time with Theo today. Keep up the great work, chaps. Now, one thing that I do like doing is trolling through Twitter to try and find humorous tweets, which are obviously in relation to Aberdeen Football Club. And I found this, which I absolutely love. Let me get it up, first of all. It's in relation, obviously, to the World Cup, and it's from CJ, Callum EJJ. It's a picture of Lionel Messi with Darren Mackey. I know who my GOAT is. I thought that was absolutely genius. You see, that's what Twitter for me is all about. Brilliant. Well done. Right, let's have a quick look to see if there's any more comments coming in just before we wish you a fond farewell. Jason Campbell makes it's the sort of the financial gulf between us and them. Jason has said, with Celtic getting 30 million Champions League money every season, showings like that is going to be more and more regular. Well, yeah, it could be. But again, it's like what I keep saying, and I'm sure you'll agree, it's what we do on the football pitch, 11 against 11, and what's in there, and the tactics deployed to help us win a game of football. So there we are. Guys, thank you so much for being on tonight. And also I'd like to just very quickly thank you to all of you who have joined the membership scheme here on Ali Beg ABTV. That is basically, it's a scheme where YouTube have allowed creators like me to sort of try and flourish by getting support from people like you. And what it means is by paying a very small monthly fee, you can help me build this channel the way that I want to do it. So I'm very, very grateful to those of you who have already joined the membership scheme. It means a great deal to me. So I just wanted to finish the show by thanking you. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's watch. I hope we've made some sense of it. I hope we've tried to find some balance as well. And I will see you tomorrow night for the preview show ahead of the big game against Rangers at Pittodrie. So I will be on air 1 hour before kickoff so that we can bring you the team news and all of that. So guys, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.